I cannot describe to you how big of a deal it is to have Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the UN, Herman Van Rompuy, unelected head of the EU, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, Al Gore, all these world leaders coming out and saying, we're setting up a world government based on global carbon taxes, a global constitution of the G20 controlling the planet's currencies, national currencies that are under the auspices and are pegged to the SDRs. Now, why have they done that? This was a big thing for them in the last 2 years to shift from denying they were setting up a world government for the last 50 as they were setting it up. Thousands of their internal documents fell into our hands. They published many of them in scholarly reports knowing you wouldn't be reading them. That's how arrogant they are, thinking all you care about is, baseball and football and partying. Well, Brzezinski explains why, and I'm seeing this in more and more reports, why they've now, and of course I said this years ago, in the last 2 years they've shifted from denying all of this to admitting that it's real because they've passed that cost-benefit point where if we lie about world government, that'll discredit us with people that find out we are setting it up, but they're such a small minority, we want to sneak up on the world population with this global corporate takeover, so we're going to go ahead and lie. But in the last 2 years, and I think a few years late, they should have done this a decade ago, they were smart, they went from denying it to admitting it, and even admitting that it's authoritarian. Remember 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, it's in the Obama deception, scores of articles, Time Magazine, Newsweek, but especially the Financial Times of London said, and now for world government. That was the headline, and now for world government. And why did they say, and now for world government? Well, he goes on to say, we built it quietly, we built it in stealth, yes, it's authoritarian, you don't know what's good for you, this is to save the earth. And yes, the Bilderberg Group's real. Okay? So, not only do they admit it's a world government, but that it's unelected and unaccountable to you because they know better. And then, of course, in every case, they rob you with this system they've built. And torture and secret arrest and DNA databases is what these people put in to place in every country they control. They are tyrants. They don't want free speech. They don't want private property for the general public, only for themselves. It's all selectively enforced. It's a super elite destroying anybody who has 2 cents to rub together. Now, you have all that going on. And you have Zbigniew Brzezinski at a televised CFR meeting admitting there's been a global awakening to the New World Order. The G20 is our best shot at world government, but it's infighting. And we already played that part of the clip. It's a long clip last hour. The full unedited clip is up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com right now. But then the first question he gets is, don't we need to use the UN as a world government? And he goes on to explain that it's basically impotent, that yes, they want a world government, but there's no single power big enough to enforce the world government. So he also admits the U.S. is the main bulldog and the main engine of the world government, destroying our sovereignty while we're used to destroy other people's sovereignty, with economic warfare, with invasions, selling rebels weapons, selling neighboring countries weapons, State Department Memorandum 200, where Kissinger talks about selling weapons to a neighboring country to attack the next country to create population reduction. I mean, this is ruthless. And this is the great game where they play nations and groups and people off against each other. That's what racist films like Machete are about, getting us all fighting with each other. Because if the globalists can't make us infight, they're going to lose. But his big admission is the people are now awake. As I said 2 years ago, they made a decision that wasn't announced, but you can see the decision. Suddenly, hundreds of articles a week admitting it's authoritarian world government, but that it's for your own good. Remember that. For the world government and telling you it's good. And yes, they've been trying to set it up. And poor them, they're having trouble because people are awake. Clearly, they passed that point where lying about it was only discrediting them. So now they shifted into telling you, okay, world government is a good thing, but they still think cops are dumber than the general public because they still teach police in all their training manuals that it doesn't exist and that if you talk about it, the person talking about world government wants to kill cops. It's just very elementary brainwashing. Hey, if you hear somebody saying there's a banking takeover, a world government, be careful, they want to kill you. That's in all the different ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, MIAC, Homeland Security reports that we received from law enforcement a year and a half ago. Now that's all public. See?
The other major change in international affairs is that for the first time in all of human history, mankind is politically awakened. That's a total new reality. Total new reality. It has not been so for most of human history until the last 100 years. And in the course of the last 100 years, the whole world has become politically awakened. And no matter where you go, politics is a matter of social engagement, and most people know what is generally going on in the world, and are consciously aware of global iniquities, inequalities, lack of respect, exploitation. Mankind is now politically awakened and stirring. The combination of the two, the diversified global leadership, politically awakened masses, makes a much more difficult context for any major power, including, currently, the leading world power, the United States.
I really enjoyed your presentation, but I'm wondering, how would you rate the United Nations in helping solve some of the geopolitical problems we've had? Some people say they're not adding a lot of solutions, and some people even suggest we should have another organization internationally that can do the job that the United Nations should be doing. And even people are talking about one world governments. I mean, how do you view the UN right now?
Well, there should be such an organization. The word "should" implies that there is a kind of moral imperative or need for it. But it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because we don't have a situation in which there is a concentrated source of power that has universal reach. Not even America has that. So the United Nations functions well in areas in which it is possible to generate consensus. And that deals usually with elements pertaining to human suffering, or to well-being, or to health. For example, the Food Organization, the Health Organization, the relief agencies, or arbitration of conflicts of...
And basically, earlier he talked about the G20 is the best mode they've got for the world government. And imagine how outrageous this is. Private central banks that have engineered the financial collapse on record, that's now public knowledge, are saying we're going to form a world government that issues a magic digital currency that you've got to buy from us with interest backed up by real assets. I mean, why not just go pick some wino off the street corner and make them God? And, put their face on some money, and then we have to pay them interest to have it. Think about that. And that's why if we point out that they're illegitimate, autocratic, authoritarian, and that it's immoral what they're doing, then there's no way they can put this into place. And that's why they're so scared. And that's why they're going, okay, there is a world government, we're trying to set it up for your own good, it's God's work, it's a moral imperative. A moral imperative. This is a guy who brags about how he funded, in the later administration of Jimmy Carter, the operations with Pol Pot that killed 30% of the population conservatively. These guys are into what they do. These are eugenicists at every level who want you dead. They don't just want your property, they want you and your kids off of it, skulls out there on the back 40. And that's the next level of awakening. The public is now awoken to the fact there is a world government run by banks. The public had better wake up fast to the fact that this world government is murderous and that they compete with each other in the power structure, in the pyramidal system, for who is the most cunning, the most ruthless. They believe in social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. They believe whatever they do to murder and kill and steal and poison is a moral reflection of their sickening humanism, their form of humanism. Now, here's a David Rockefeller quote. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practice in past centuries. Here's another one from his book, Memoirs, published 5 years ago. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal, well, we know you are, working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalist and conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political economic structure. One world, if you will. If that is the charge, I stand guilty and proud of it. So that's what's going on here. And we actually own that book. It's here in the office. I want to go back to your calls here, but I want to go back to what's happening nationwide.